Hello, everyone. This is Joni from the Paperback Exchange Bookstore, 6412 Ridge Road, where our motto is sleep less, read more. Today, we have the honor of having local author in, not in Homestead anymore, I'm sorry.
Yep, Sebastian, Florida.
Sebastian, Florida. Miss Marie Ketsia Theodore-Pharel.
Yes.
Welcome. Thank you for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
No, thank you for having me.
Now, she has provided us with some of her books that sold almost immediately. So I'm going to put up a quick screenshot and we'll talk to Ketsia a little bit about her books. So let's bring this up here. I'm not looking down my nose at people. I have to use trifocals to see the buttons here. Well, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today here with our author interviews. Tell us a little bit about your books and which genres do you write in, Ketsia?
So I write fiction. So I do both adult fiction and children's fiction. So on my website, I specify the reading level, and the reading level is the child reading, if it's a child's book, the child reading to him or herself. And of course, the adult book has adult content. And so I specify because I wouldn't want them to give a kid a book that's not for a kid.
Obviously.
Yeah.
More so, yes. We have a lot of trouble trying to decide whether books are teen books or adult books because sometimes the content is a little forward.
Yes.
So what, you've got so many different genres. You're writing for kids, teens, and adults. What has inspired these books?
It's really events around my life, events around my country of origin, which is Haiti. I mean, I've been living in America for over 30 years, but I still feel like Haiti is home. And because that's where I was born and grew up. So I get inspired a lot by that. Like Rope is a story about the 1915 invasion of Haiti, and well, it's a love story, and it traces these two families' lives that merge, and it looks at different class issues in Haiti, as well as Haiti and American relationship. But it's also to pique people's historical curiosity, because a lot of people don't realize how traumatic it was for Haitians when the Americans invaded Haiti and occupied Haiti, and how that has affected Haiti-US relationship and so on.
Under the guise of being a
peacekeeping
mission.
Yeah.
And still feeling those repercussions today.
Exactly. And we see that it is they do it over and over again, reproduce this kind of model of occupying Haiti. Yeah.
Shine it up and give it a new name and keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Yes.
So you've got some of the history built into that. So we would call that here historical fiction.
Yeah.
And I see some of the references you've got there. Let's take a look at some of the other books that you've got here. We've got Beauty Walks in Nature.
Yes, that actually won the Purple Dragonfly Award for children's books. It was inspired really by my daughter. She was in the 3rd grade, and a little boy told her she was the color of poop. And I wrote her a poem to really lift her up, lift her spirits up about her beauty, that her beauty is found in nature. And then, I was thinking about it. I was like, I bet other kids have this too. It's not only Black kids that have this issue. So there's the Native American child, the Asian child, there's everyone in this book, the white child.
I was a really skinny kid, and when somebody called me skinny, it would upset me too. Not much I could do about that.
Exactly. So it's all about that, our body image. Some of the girls, they're like would I be beautiful if I were skinny? And then looking at that in nature, what does that really mean? So that's what that book deals with, like we're all beautiful and our beauty is part of nature, we're naturally beautiful. So that's the message of that book.
Huge message for kids because
Yeah,
they,
yeah,
they they compare themselves so much these days.
yeah, yeah. They
And
need to
let's
hear
take
it.
a look at this next book on the list here. We've got Songs from a Tower. That's a 3rd to 5th grade level.
Yeah, that is a book. It's like a Black Rapunzel, but except she's put in the tower to keep slave catchers from kidnapping her and taking her to America. So
So a little bit of a twisted tale.
a
I like it.
twisted tale,
I
yeah.
like it. I like it.
So it sort of gives, because they're not expecting that, they're expecting it's going to be like a Rapunzel story, and but then when you find out why she's in the tower, then you see, then the history part comes in about the transatlantic slave trade, the capture of people in Africa to be brought over.
So is this how we're going to have to teach what really happened in race? Are we going to have to sneak it in and try to get it in under the radar? I mean, I hate to think that that's what we would have to do to teach our kids the realities of what happened, but you seem to have a good grip on the fact that it's partially fiction, but you've got a lot of history in there. Have you
Yeah.
had any pushback have you had to try to get your books in schools and had any pushback at all?
I try to get my books in school, but it's just really hard to get books in school, period, because of politics. But I tell parents are always saying, when I go to book fairs, I said, here are some multicultural books. Buy them for teachers, give them as gift to teachers, give teachers these gifts, because while the person who's buying the books might not buy these books, but if a parent brings it in and says, I want this in the library, I want this in my child's classroom, they will put it in there. And so, yeah, critical race theory, they don't want things like that in the classroom. But if you really believe kids should know true history and be able to talk about it, not to feel guilty, but to talk about it, yes, definitely buy these books, buy multicultural authors, and gift these books to the school or the library, the public library.
I remember, going through high school and years after, picked up a copy of Howard Zinn's The History of the United States, the people's history of the United States.
Mhm.
And he used actual newspaper articles and went through chronologically and talked about all the politics involved. And as soon as I got done with that book, I was like, why did I waste all of that time in high school reading about, the forefathers and that's important and all that
Yeah.
memorization? But why couldn't this be included in some form of a history class like teen literature or something like that, where they could just ease it in to say, not everything has been going as shiny as it sounds like in the newspapers or in the books that you've been reading, textbooks.
Or have it available for the child, because I find that children they know now to hey, let me read this book, let me find out, so just have it available, they'll pick it up eventually, word will get around, hey,
And
I read this
they
great
may
book.
happen just to read it a little bit too early, but when they go back
Yeah,
10 years later and go, oh, that's not what I thought that meant. And then
yeah,
that's when the comprehension, sometimes it takes longer than just reading a book and saying, hey, I have that information in my head. You have
yeah,
to be able to comprehend what's happening too.
true,
I love that you include that in your books
yeah,
and don't make that the forefront of it,
no,
because you
no,
can sneak it by some people.
yeah, you have
unfortunately
to sneak it in.
unfortunately that's the way you have to be. Gosh, that's sad. All right,
Yeah.
so we've got Keeper of the Sky. So we're going back down a level here. We're back to K to 5, 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And what's that one about?
So it's a creation myth story where it really, again, it's an allegory for the early colonial events of Haiti. So we have a queen, Anaka, who is the native, who is inspired by the native Taino people of Haiti. And so her people are colorful, and they are tricked by these colorless people who steal all the colors of their kingdom. And they squeeze all the colors and all the juices out of their kingdom, and the queen is left, she has to make a sacrifice and to restore the color back to her people, so it is also the story of Columbus coming coming
Seems to
to
be a
the New
theme
World.
here. But it has to be told, and it has to be told in such a way
Yeah,
that
yeah.
children can comprehend it.
Yeah, they
Okay,
don't realize that's what's happening, but after a while, they're like, "Oh, okay."
and two, if you that's happened to me before, where I've learned something too young and it didn't really connect, it didn't click until I learned something years later, or
Yeah,
made the connection of the two different things. Because I don't know, my mind's going about 100 miles an hour right now with all
yeah,
of these ideas, but it doesn't sink in until you get the entire story,
yeah. But the
because
seed
they
needs to
shine it
be
up. Oh, no, on
planted.
our side, they shine it all up.
Yeah.
So chicken tap tap. What is that?
Yes. So this is a story about a farmer. His chickens keep getting run over, and he says, "Why did the chickens cross the road? I mean, I've given them everything they will ever want." So he goes and he investigates why his chickens are being run over and why they want to cross the road. So he builds them like a tap tap. I don't know, if you know anything about Haiti, people get around in these colorful buses called tap tap. And so he builds his chickens a tap tap. And that's how his chickens eventually cross the road. And so I won't say anything about the
I don't give it
punchline.
away. Don't, no spoilers.
Yeah,
Well,
but that
that's
one's meant to be funny. And when I
why
go
would
to
a chicken
schools,
want to cross the road? I
road.
give them everything, right?
Yes, yes.
That's funny.
Yeah.
All right, a fish called Tanga.
Hmm. So this one is about giving and sharing in a friendship, because Tanga was a magical fish, and he helped his friend get rich by bringing fish to her river, her pond, and then her father would fish. And then when pretty soon there were no more fish, and then the friend was like, "Well, there's you." And so there's this idea of, if you give so much of yourself, you know um and the person is still asking you more, is this person your friend? Because I think a lot of them kids don't understand that. You keep giving this friend all your snacks for
Right.
lunch, is this your friend? So it's a question
A little bit
about
about boundary setting.
boundary setting. Yes.
No means no, but doesn't mean I
Yes.
hate you.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
tricky with kids,
yeah,
because
yeah,
it's so instant. They want it right there. They see it, they want it. And some
yeah,
adults too.
yeah. True. Yeah. And what does healthy friendship looks like? It's not always in quid pro quo, but no one should be taking advantage of you, making you do something you don't want to do.
Very good
Yeah.
point. Very good
Hmm.
point. All
Yeah.
right. Next, we have the daughter of the house. That would be for a third to fifth grader.
Hmm.
And no more. One more daughter, comma, America.
Yes. So that one, those two are like book one, book two. So they're like sequels. And so in Daughter of the House, it's an escape story. She lives in an island where there's a dictator, and her brothers help her escape, and it involves a coffin. And so it involves a coffin, some mules, and some mules and some goats.
So we can learn a little bit about phobias in this book.
Yeah. so so she has to escape. So she escapes. She takes a boat to America, and it's about the boat ride to America, coming to America. Yeah, escaping an oppressive island.
And then
Which
the second book is after she's already gotten here.
No, the second book is her journey
Oh,
to
that's the journey. I
America.
have.
Yeah, journey to America. Yeah.
And then we've got one down here, this last one on the bottom, the Little Runners, Rara.
Rara. Yeah, so Olala in Haiti is like it's like the original idea and concept for a flash mob, but except it's like a band. It's impromptu. Somebody starts it and everybody joins in, and then people dance. It could go for days. People just follow each other around, and the music is going, and people are just going, right? So that's the idea. It's just an impromptu, you know, celebration that becomes huge, and then you follow it around until it dies down. Well, this kid, he's like 3. He doesn't want to walk. Everybody's got an idea. Why isn't he walking? He's, you know, somebody's like, oh, he should be spanked. Somebody's like, oh, no, what's wrong with him? And then grandmother's like, you know, forcing somebody to do something they don't want to do is like trying to fill the ocean with rocks. It just doesn't make sense, which is actually a Creole proverb, a Haitian Creole proverb.
Tell me it.
Yeah,
I love it. I love the
yeah,
concept. I want to
yeah,
hear it.
yeah. So
Can't fill
it's
the ocean with rocks because it'll just
no,
be.
it's useless. What do you think about? It's like trying to fill the oceans with rocks. It's absurd. So finally, father comes home. His job gives him a bicycle, and he sees this bicycle, and he takes off after the bicycle, and everybody in town is so happy. They start this impromptu rara behind him. And so, but because I'm writing the book for kids in America, I had to think of a song that they could relate to. So I used the Wheels on the Bus. So the
Perfect.
song is the Wheels on the Bus, but if I were to read it in Haiti, I would use a different song in the Creole version. But every kid in America knows the Wheels on the Bus, right? So that's a book that I like to use when I do school visits, because we make the instruments, the maracas, the cha-cha, we make all the instruments, and then we have our own rara, and it's really fun. Yeah.
So folks can get a hold of you on your website, which
Yes.
is mktheodore-pharel.com. And I'll spell that really quickly for those of us that are dyslexic if they're trying to write it down. mktheodore-pharel.com.
Yeah.
And if you would like to ask any questions, please do so in the spots below here in the YouTube and on the Facebook page. I've got some questions for you, some just basic questions like what's your
Mhm.
favorite author and things like that. But I'd like to know what you're working on right now. We've shown all the books you've got published. So what are you
Uh-huh.
working on right now?
So right now I am working on 2 novels, adult novels. I just finished a children's book actually, but um, I sent it to my publisher, so they're reviewing it. Um, the adult book is about one of the things that I do is I do oral storytelling that I love. My friend Lilian Niret, Louis, master storyteller, turned me on to that. She's like, you are a natural storyteller. So she trained me. And so I'm trying to incorporate that into my fiction, the stories, the folk tales of Haiti. So there's a book of fiction, it's a book of fiction, but I weave the stories that we would know into the stories. So there's a storyteller who tells a story that's connected to what's going on with the character. So it's a way, it's almost like a call and response to my people, and then to anybody else who's learning about Haitian culture. So that's what I'm experimenting with in one book. So I'm writing that. I'm excited about that.
So with being able to get a hold of you on your website, if
Mhm.
anybody's listening that might be a teacher or have an NAACP chapter or in their county or have a cultural um, assembly for their city or county that would want to have you come and speak, you can do some
Yes.
storytelling for them
I
and
would
talk
love
about
to
your
do
books
that.
too. That would be
Yes,
awesome. That would be
yes,
awesome.
yes. In fact, storytelling sometimes is just my natural way of starting any session. And then if I have to read my book, I read a book that's connected, but I always tell a story.
So
Yeah.
you've lived in Haiti, you've lived
Mhm.
here in Florida. Have you lived anywhere else here in the
I,
United
I
States?
actually grew up in Boston. So when I came from Haiti, I lived in Boston, Massachusetts, went to college. I went to Tufts University. Hello, Jumbos out there. And, and then I went to UMass Boston for my master's. And so we moved here to Florida in 1999. And I've been here ever since. Yeah,
Ran away to the circus. That's what I did
I
too about
love
20
it.
years ago. So you've got all the different genres that you write in. Who do you think would benefit most from reading your kids' books and vice versa, your adult books? Who do you think would benefit the most?
Well, I think anybody would. Anybody who's interested in just exploring different themes of multiculturalism, just a story that's presented in a different way, that's very layered. I like to write in layers, and people will say, yeah, because at first you'll read it and you'll get one thing, you'll come back, you'll get something else. And I like to say that the reason I write both is because I'm talking to the young today, but they're going to keep reading me. It's a business strategy.
Maybe you're talking a little bit to the future selves.
To the future self, exactly. So it's a business strategy, right?
Who influenced you the most as far as authors that you cherish?
So others that I cherish, obviously living is my icon, Edwidge Dantika, and um, uh, those who have passed away, Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou, still living, Alice Walker, so those are the great people that have poured into me, and those are the ones I love. Yeah.
And about locally in your family, who
Mhm.
who influenced you to write? Who put the fire under you?
Oh my goodness. Definitely my grandmother. She was a great storyteller. And I think that's what my friend Lilian, a wonderful storyteller, she saw and instilled in me, said, you have to tell those stories. And so my grandmother was always telling stories. Sometimes she wouldn't even talk to you. You ask her for something, she told you a story. You're like, oh man, I gotta break it down and know what she's talking about. And then later you're like, that's what she meant by that story. Yeah, so definitely my grandmother.
Well, we will have some of your books here at the Paperback Exchange. Where else can folks buy your books? Can they go to your website and get them too?
Yes,
Where else do you have them
definitely. My
available?
website, my publisher, educavision.com, Amazon, they can get it on Amazon, but Educa would probably be, especially the children's book, faster. And
I've noticed on Barnes and Noble they carry some, but not all,
yes, Barnes and
and things like
Nobles,
that.
if you request. And also, if you cannot buy a book from me, please ask your local libraries to buy the books because they have the budget. They need to buy multicultural authors, especially local authors, you know,
Florida based.
Florida based. I mean, they they are great at buying these national authors, but the local writers, they'll ask us to come in, do readings, but they won't buy our books. And it's like, support us. I love to do it. I'll do it, but support us.
Well, I do something with my authors. I'd like to do a little bit of a speed round.
Mhm.
And so I've got 10 questions here that we can go through very quickly. Don't think about them too much.
Okay.
But we just want to learn a little bit about you that we might not learn reading one of your books. So
Okay.
obviously we talked already. So first question is your favorite author.
Edwidge Zatika.
Favorite vegetable.
Oh, cabbage.
Favorite season.
Summer.
Best book to movie adaptation.
Best book to movie adaptation. Oh, I just don't think there's one. They always mess it up.
Okay.
But you know what? The Color Purple is not bad. The Color Purple. I'm gonna say The Color Purple. Yeah.
What is your favorite beverage?
Dr. Pepper.
How many books are in your to be read pile right now?
About 40. It's
Lucky.
terrible.
That's lucky.
Yeah.
Do you prefer physical books or ebooks?
I prefer physical books. I like the smell of books. Yes. Yes.
Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah.
We toss back and forth the idea of both. So,
Yeah.
what do you recommend besides obviously the Bible and your books? What is your most recommended book that you tell people to read?
Obviously, I'm gonna say, read anything by Edwidge Zentika, Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou. Those are my favorites. So I'm gonna say that. Alice Walker, yes.
How many books do you read in a year?
So I am part of a book club, believe it or not. And so I read all those books, even if I just read half of them, I tend to. But 20 to 30 books a year I read. Yeah.
Do you finish a book that you don't like, or do you move on?
I move on.
Too-
Life is short.
Not enough time.
But you know what I do? I will write myself a note on the last page and I will say why I'm quitting to my future self, what's going on, why I'm quitting, and why I got to stop reading this right now.
Maybe later, right?
Maybe later. Yeah, that has happened where I quit reading a book because, like you said, even as an adult, there's a seed planted, but then you have to have the right context and the right experience to understand a book. So I'll start reading a book that I'm like, I don't understand this. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what this writer's doing. And then I'll come back and I'll like it. I'll say, oh, because it was the right time, the right season.
And that can work in your favor, but then you can also read a book when you're younger and recommend it to people and then go back 20 years later and read it and go, I'm never recommending this book again.
Yeah, what was I thinking?
It depends on where you're at, what's relevant.
Yeah.
A lot of times selling books is a lot like day trading, depending on what's relevant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so very much.
Joni, thank you so much.
And we will add all of your links into the messages in the bottom underneath our Facebook feed and our YouTube feed. Yeah. Please feel free to come back in and ask, answer questions to folks that are interested in your books and where they can get them. If they can get them at a bookstore near them that's not near me, I'm more about promoting your books than anything else. So
yes, please.
So thank you so much, Marie. K Theodore-Pharel, for being here today.
Thank you so much.
And we will definitely be looking at getting some more of your books in here, especially Rope and probably the fish called Tanga. Okay. We really like the messages of both of those. So thank you so much.
I appreciate you, Joni. You do wonderful work.
Thank you so much. Take care now.
Take care. Bye. Want to say hi?
Hi. Hi.
Photo bombing. All right. Bye.
So this is Joni from Paperback Exchange Bookstore, 6412 Ridge Road. Sleep less, read more, and wash your hands. Thank you.